is my hack, vCon Redactor, for the vCon TAD hack. So the problem I'm trying to solve is that the vCon App Store makes it very easy to discover and run new apps, but the vCons that it processes, that the apps process, contain personal data. And I wasn't sure you could really trust some new app that you just downloaded not to leak that data, whether that's through malicious intentions or just by coding errors. My solution is to build an API server that redacts personal data as it serves those vCons, and this means there's no risk of leak. So here's the previous architecture. You have your trusted app talking to the API server. The API server talks to Redis and also the backend store, and then the vCon server processes those vCons too. And here's the updated architecture. So I've added this redacting API server, which sits in parallel with the regular API server, and it serves vCons to an untrusted app. And these two run on different ports. So the API server, the trusted API server runs on port 8000. The redacting one in this case runs on port 7999. And here's demo. So I can hit the URL, the vCon URL on port 8000 and extract the parties, and I get all the information about all the telephone number, mail to, and name for them. And here's what happens if I hit port 7999. I don't get that information. It's been redacted. There are quite a lot of open questions. Should I be redacting more information than the telephone, mail to, and name? Probably. I don't include the previous vCon UUID in the redacted property. According to the spec, it should be included, but given the untrusted app actually has no way of retrieving that vCon UUID, it's questionable whether that's helpful. In fact, is this redacting in transit approach okay at all? Should we redact in advance using a chain in the vCon server? Should we change from this multi-API server? We've got two API servers sitting in parallel talking to the same backend. Is that okay, or should we actually have one API server instance that switches on API key to decide to redact? It would be much better if we could redact data from specific parties based on their role. So, for example, in the previous example, there were two parties, one who was an agent and one who was a customer. It's probably fine to keep the agent's identity in the vCon, just remove the customer's identity. As a bonus hack, I also implemented retrieval from Azure Blob Storage. So vCon server can retrieve vCons from things like S3 and various other places. Didn't support Azure Blob Storage. I added that. Here's a picture of the Azure portal showing those vCons in storage. So thank you for listening, and thank you for organising and sponsoring. And there's the URL for my code. Thank you very much.